Hello, Sweetwater County. It is winter, it is cold, and I hope everyone had a wonderful holiday season. We are in January, and because we're in January and the cold is here, we want to talk a little bit about heating and kind of inform you about what's going on inside your home as far as your heaters go. There are different types of heaters, and we're going to get into the core of those, but let me explain a little bit about forced air heat. I think that's a confusing one for a lot of people. They're not sure how it goes about. And so let's get into the anatomy and the essentials of how a forced air furnace, works inside your home. First of all, you have your thermostat, okay? And your thermostat is like a switch, like a light switch. When you turn on the light switch, the light bulb turns on. Thermostat's the same type of thing, only it's using temperatures. And there's usually about a 5-degree difference. So if you set that thermostat at 70, it could be between 65 and 75 that kicks on and off. But that temperature is going to remain right in that area. So if it hits 65 degrees, basically if you've got that set at 70 degrees on the thermostat and you're calling for heat at 65, that will kick on. And once that kicks on, that sends a signal down to the furnace on the control board. And then that furnace sends out a signal to the rest of the unit, the board, saying, hey, it's time to kick on. And what happens at that point is what the inducer motor turns on. And the inducer motor does two things. First of all, it pulls any exhaust that might be in the vent out. And the second thing it's doing is it's checking to make sure there's no clogs in the vent, because the last thing it wants to do is turn on and create more carbon monoxide inside the system without having it open to the outside. Once the inducer motor senses that and it ran for a few minutes and it's checked that out, the next thing that happens is it calls for heat. Basically, your burners turn on. And the gas valve opens, gas comes through, burners turned on. As that burner turns on, it's heating up what they call a heat exchanger. That heat exchanger is basically a chamber where the flames are going through, and it's using the coil system to slow down the fumes, and basically that's heating up metal. The heat exchanger is basically just a metal heating up. After that gets heated up to a certain temperature, then your blower motor kicks on. And basically what happens at that point is the fan that actually is going to push the hot air through your ductwork is going to start kicking on and pushing that through. And it's running over the heat exchanger. So basically it's blowing over this coil system and it's heating that air, and it's just coming across with that fan. It heats that air and it sends it through the ducts. Basically, it works on a recycle system. And it's kind of cool how that works is it comes out through the supply. That was usually the ductwork on top of your furnace. As that comes out through the supply, it goes into your home. And then somewhere in your home, there's what they call a return duct. And basically what that return duct does is it pulls that air that's colder in the home out and brings it back into the furnace. And what it's trying to do is warm up the temperature of the air inside the home. And basically that's how the furnace works. Cool thing about that inducer motor, like I was talking about at the very beginning, is as that inducer motor kicks on, it's bringing fresh air into your furnace for the flame, but it's also taking the venting out, so it's forcing it outside. And that's basically the concept there is to a forced air furnace. Broke down really simple. There's a few things that we can do to make sure that we maintain this. Obviously, you know, it can heat up, and as that air is heating up, it can get too hot. So there can be a thing in there called a high limit switch. And when basically that whole job of that high limit switch is a thermostat for that heat exchanger, making sure that it doesn't get over a certain temperature, because if it gets over a certain temperature, it could crack that heat exchanger and then dump carbon monoxide into your home. So that high limit switch can be on there, is on that heat exchanger, and it senses the temperature of that heat exchanger in the burner area and make sure that doesn't go over that certain temperature. If that goes bad, it can shut down the gas valve and kill your thing. So there are a few things that we can do as homeowners to maintain our furnace. Number one, we can clean the filter. As that cool air is coming back into the home, there's a filter there. And that filter is stopping any particles from getting back into the heat exchanger or into the coil system that's heating up the air. Basically, that filter, if it gets clogged off, it suffocates the cycle of air, but it also can add particles and dirt into the heat exchanger, which can clog it up over time and can create overheating inside your furnace area. So it's important to make sure that we're changing the filters. It's important to make sure that before the fall time hits, fall and spring, I tell everybody you need to make sure that your batteries and your thermostat, if they're running on batteries, is good. Some of the newer technology, they don't use batteries, they actually use power from the furnace. And so there are some things that can take place with that. Hopefully that gives you kind of an understanding of the anatomy of how the furnace works in your home. Obviously at Aspen Mountain Plumbing, we recommend you do the initial maintenance to make sure that these things are ready in the fall time and the springtime. But if it goes bad in the winter, give us a call. We can come out and take care of that for you. But those are hopefully some pointers to help you kind of understand how the furnace works. It's basically, you're turning on that switch with that call for heat. The system turns on, heats up that heat exchanger, the blower blows over that, sends it out to the home, and recycles it back through. And then through the process, it's basically warming up the temperature of the air as it's in your home. Pretty simple concept. There are different types of heating systems. We'll get more into that at a later time. But those are some key points that I think is really important to remember. Everybody asks questions, Lance, what about my pilot light? And this is a part that I probably didn't talk about enough. In that heat up of the gas, when that flame kicks on, you can either have two different things. You can have, an older system will have what they call a standing pilot light. And basically that pilot light is just a small amount of gas being burned. And then as that gas valve opens up, it goes across a burner assembly, basically is what it's called. And that puts that light, hits that gas, and it basically lights it up, and that forces the flame into your heat exchanger. With the newer technology and the newer systems, and to become more energy efficient, they actually don't have a standing pilot light anymore. They have a hot surface igniter. And basically what happens is when that inducer motor gets up to the temperature, or gets up and says, hey, we're good to clear, and that gas valve kicks on, that hot surface igniter will glow and warm up, and basically the gas will light off of that. So it's a little bit more energy efficient. It doesn't burn as much gas, and that's what you'll have in your newer furnaces. And if you found good value in that content, make sure to subscribe to Aspen Mountain Plumbing's YouTube channel.